Uh, but it is a pleasure to welcome back to Christchurch David Sim. He is the Director of Gal Architects, which produced the Christchurch 2009 Public Space, Public Life Study. We'll give you an opportunity to do some rapid-fire Q&As with David. But first of all, let's get his presentation. Please welcome back to Christchurch David Sim.
Thank you very much. Is the microphone working? I was just asking the translator, is there a way of doing the signs to get the Scottish accent? That's the first of the problems, is the Scottish accent. I hope you're not disappointed that I'm not Danish. That might have been harder to understand. I've got a wee bit of a sore throat, and like I said, just a 30-hour trip from Copenhagen in economy class, so I'm maybe not at my best. I've heard a lot of remarks this morning about these foreign experts that are coming and telling you what to do. I can promise you, I'm not going to tell you anything that you have to do. My job, I'm here to listen. I want to find out what you want to do, and I want to try everything I can do with my team to help you do that. So there's no agenda in advance. Another wee problem is there's so many things I want to tell you, and there's so little time. Somebody said to me when I came in, you know, you're not seeing us at our best. And actually, I've been through the red zone, and it is shocking. I think it's probably one of the most shocking experiences in my life. But I can say maybe the physical fabric of the city is not at its best, but everything I've experienced in my visit here 3 weeks ago and the last 3 days, I think I'm really seeing you at your best. So I mean, I'm really honored to be here. So what kind of city do you want? And everybody has something to share. And nobody knows Christchurch as well as you do, and this is why this event is so important. And I really urge you after this to go out and do post-its and go online. I've seen it about 3,500 already, and I must say I've been really impressed with the caliber of the comments. It's not moans and gripes, it's truly creative, inventive, intelligent comments that are being made. Okay, I'll try to speak even louder. Is that better? What kind of city do you want? Do you want a city of moving objects, or do you want a city with faces on the streets? And what we do at Gales, we're concerned, is about quality of life for people. And that's what the first part of the talk is going to be about people. The first job I got when I arrived here, very advanced, I was sorting Lego bricks for the experiments out the back. That's not something new to me, because I've been working with urban design for about 40 years. And I would really stress, okay, the picture's a wee bit of an icebreaker, but all of you know a lot about cities and how to build them. You've built with Lego in your past, you've built your homes, you know your city. So all of things are important. When I was 6 years old, and I don't even know where I learned the word, but I had this idea I wanted to be an architect. But which I did, I got to architecture school in Edinburgh. But when I got there, I was actually very disappointed, because so much of what they talked about in architecture school was actually quite pretentious. It was all about styles and roofs and all sorts of things, flat roofs and concrete and stuff that was nothing to do with people. And when I was 19, I met a man from Denmark called Jan Gehl, who wrote a book called Life Between Buildings. And what he said was, what is important is not the big isms of architecture and the arty-farty parts, but it's about everyday life. Cities are about crossing the street. It's about standing and having a blether on the corner. It's about being able to walk to school. It's about very basic everyday things that make cities work. And that's the backbone of what we do. And now, after studying in Denmark, I went to work for Jan in Copenhagen now. The traditional planning process usually starts with buildings. Again, it could be the architects first. They do the buildings, then they do traffic, they do parking spaces, occasionally public spaces. Then they hope that life will come along at the end. And as we know from many newly built places, that life sometimes doesn't turn up. And like I said, it's all about people. And so we'll start with a very short biology lesson, if you excuse me, or sociology lesson. Now, I don't know, some people say I think the most important day in your life is when you get your driving license. I think probably the most important day in your life is when you stand up on your back legs and learn to walk. And probably one of the most amazing experiences in my life was when I was in town and I met one of my friends and my godson. This is my godson, Aris. And he was just in that process of learning to walk. And I don't know if you can see the picture on the right here, next to the electrical substation thing, there's a little puppy. Aris saw the puppy, got so excited, he forgot that he didn't know how to walk. And he took his first steps. And it was amazing. I mean, his dad was crying, you know, like calling his wife, calling his mum, Mum, he's walking. And it is a truly amazing thing. And that's what makes us different from all of the other animals, is that we get up on our back legs and we can walk. And that gives us an amazing set of skills. Because when we walk, not only do we see, but we can hear, we can smell, we can touch. And we've got these simultaneous skills that allows us to appreciate the environment around us. And regardless of where we come from in the world, we're all kind of basically in the same package. So 2 legs, 2 arms, facing forward, 2 eyes, 2 ears. And we also work in more or less the same way. And that can tell us a lot about how we appreciate the environment around us. We have to imagine, what will this place be like when you walk about it? What will it be like at eye level? Because that's what really matters. Because often you see these, you know, they stand over, the councillors, excuse me, they'll stand around the architectural model, you know, and they'll look at this is the new office building, the shopping mall, the residential towers, and they sort of stand looking at this model. It doesn't look fantastic, but nobody thinks about what's it like down at eye level when you walk around that space. So we have to think about, what will the city be like at eye level? And what makes for a great street to walk along? Is it, you know, an intriguing street with different colours, you know, small spaces, bits that stick out, you know, variation? And this one here says open 7 days. But, I mean, there's not much stimulation, not much reason to walk in a street like that. That's from Adelaide, it's not from here. And there's also something really important about human scale. Now, you all know how happy kids get when they finally get into an environment which is at their scale, when they get into the Wendy house. And they're just so happy because at last somebody understands them. At last somebody has made the door the right size, the room the right size. It's fantastic. But big adults were the same. We're also much happier if we're in an environment which is at the scale of our bodies. We feel much better. Another thing about human beings, apart from the senses and the walking, is we're actually quite sociable. We're interested. I think that's probably been the greatest thing that's come out of the earthquake here, has been the community and the feeling of being together that's come out of things. Because actually, modern society, for the most part, is quite lonely. I mean, if you think of the history of Homo sapiens, you know, we've lived in tribes and clans and big households and big families. And suddenly, for this very, very short period of history, we live on our own, isolated in little houses on our own. And it's natural that we are drawn to other people. And this is why we watch soap opera on television, you know, and not documentaries about urban design, because people are interesting. People like people. I mean, look at this picture. This is a guy flirting with some nuns on Piazza Navona, and we're naturally fascinated. It is really interesting because it's about human relationships, and that's by far the most interesting thing in life. And anywhere you go, you know, there's this thing about, we talk about social distance. It's nice to get closer to people, because, you know, if you're in the car speeding along at 60 kilometers an hour, you can't really engage with people. And it's only when you get close, and this is whether you're in Copenhagen or in a fishing village in Scotland, or if you're in Greece, or even here in Christchurch, you need to get closer to be with other people. And, you know, because I'm standing here a bit like a politician or a professor, you know, or a minister, or a priest or something. And actually, it's quite nice when you get a bit closer, and you can see things that you otherwise don't see. You know, like your scarf. That's very nice. She's getting a bit nervous in case I get a bit too close. But it's only when you get closer I can see that actually there are some people that are not sleeping. And it's always funny that people always fill the seats at the front last, because it's always good to get a certain distance, you know, because we're a bit nervous. But the reason I talk about this thing about distance is very often in urban planning, we're very tempted to add an extra 10 meters, just to be sure. make that a bit bigger just to be sure. And if you add those extra meters, you take away all of those intimate, close experiences. So it's good if we actually have smaller space. And I think that's why the laneways work so well in Christchurch, because those are spaces that you got closer. And then there's a thing about human beings and health. Now, I don't know if you get the irony of this picture. Now, the silly thing is that now it's always funny to laugh at the Americans, but there are machines inside this building which will simulate going upstairs, and which simulate walking, and which simulate riding a bike. You know, and it's and people pay money to go there, and they spend their free time doing this. Yeah, and maybe we could just do those things passively, not have to do those things. And I've asked surgeons and I've asked district nurses, what is the foundation of health? And generally they'll say more or less the same thing. They'll say fresh air, exercise, meet people. And we have to ask ourselves, do we make places which make it easy to get fresh air, exercise, and meet people? And that's the basis of what we're trying to do. Like I said, there's no particular fixed pattern for what we do in different places. We want to make safe places, all times of the day. It should be safe to walk home when it's dark. Healthy places, economically stable places. It was great to hear about Ballantyne's. Low carbon places, lively places, attractive, enjoyable places, but always people at the centre of things. Now, I know cultures are different. Now, this is my second visit to Christchurch. But I even know, having been in Auckland and Wellington, that Christchurch is different. Places are different, cultures are different, and we always have to respect that. Climates are different too. You know about the weather here. I come from Scotland, so I know about the weather too. That affects how we behave. But the way we use space is universal. The way we experience the world is universal. Like I said, walking, 2 legs, eyes facing forward, and this package of senses. So what we want to do is to find ways to improve quality of life, everyday quality of life. And like those things about, can you walk to school? Can you cross the street? Is it pleasant to stand on the corner having that blether? Improving everyday life for everybody in cities. Now, we work all over the world with this. Copenhagen is a famous city, a Copenhagen in the miserable north of Europe with a terrible climate. We do sometimes get the summer. This is an example. This was New Haven, which you sometimes see on the postcards. Now, there's a very, very controversial project here to take away 60 parking spaces in the afternoon and evenings in the summer months. So this was sort of a flexible project, and everybody was a wee bit nervous about this, you know, because it was very convenient to be able to park just outside the shops and cafes. 60 parking spaces, a lot of parking.